The title of my talk today was Managing Insecurity at EU's Mediterranean Borders. When we talk about border security nowadays, we're not exactly talking about kind of checks that are done at the borders. Border management, security borders has shifted to sometimes second countries, non-EU members, or sometimes for third countries. So border management, managing border security is not exactly taking place at the airports or border checks at other places. Mediterranean borders are being secured in a different number of places, sometimes in the Mediterranean. And the arrival of people on boats, sometimes on trains and by foot nowadays, is presented to us in terms of border insecurities or being unable to manage security at our borders. Sometimes it's being presented to us as a crisis of security management at the borders. What I suggested today was that this is not exactly a crisis. The definition of a crisis in daily usage is something that just happens and requires an immediate response. The arrival of people, human mobility nowadays, is presented to us as a crisis. People are just arriving at our doorstep. Something needs to be done about this. One way of dealing with this crisis, remember, if this is a crisis, something that needs to be done immediately. One way of dealing with this crisis is presented to us as the militarized option. The other way of dealing with this is presented to us as the humanitarian option. Either the humanitarian or the militarized responses are presented to us because this is a crisis, they tell us. What I suggested today was that this is not exactly a crisis in the sense that this is a problem that has been evolving in the last 15 years and by some accounts in the last 30 years. What we have at the moment is the result of a series of policy choices made by EU policymakers and their southern counterparts in the north of Africa over the years. So we have come where we are as a result of policy choices that was made. This is not a crisis in that sense. This is a result of a series of policy failures. And some of them were very well intended policies, but they have nevertheless failed. So if we stop looking at the latest series of events as a crisis, but as a series of policies and sometimes policy failures, then we can rethink our politics vis-à-vis what is happening in the Mediterranean, as opposed to thinking of this as outside politics and requiring an immediate knee-jerk kind of response, either humanitarian terms or in militarized terms. That is, in a gist, what I argued today.